All right, we are going to make a mess today. I have my little ink vial holder that I slapped together in my wood shop, where we have a couple of abominations we made in previous videos. Today we're going to make a new one. Let's start by clearing some of this off so that blah blah blah. I have these little 5 milliliter vials. I think they technically hold 6 milliliter. I bought them somewhere from some guy on the side of the road out of a van. I don't know. I don't remember where these came from. Probably the interwebs. Today, we're going to try to make a fun orchid color using Jinhao Bluish Violet, and this Nightmare ink, Jinhao Neon Yellow, which looks green. Ecto Cooler. But it is yellow. It's not just yellow. It is cheap highlighter pen yellow. Let's see if I have my sample page for it handy. And by that I mean, yes, I do have it handy. You see how horrible this is to read? And this is on halfway decent paper. Today we'll be making a mess on cheap marble notebook. Only the best here. This cost me $1. I think it was actually 66 cents on sale at Staples or whatever. Not an endorsement. Shop the sales. I'm a stranger on the internet. Don't take me too seriously. My advice should not be listened to. You don't know me. My advice isn't valid. Anyway, blah, blah, blah. Disclaimers aside, I'm going to start with 2 parts this bluish violet, 1 part neon yellow. And I think that's going to make a god-awful, terrible color that I'm going to love. But I'm going to try to adjust it by adding small amounts of either ink. I suspect I'll be adding more bluish yellow, violet, to extract the ink from the ink bottles and deposit it into this thing. I will be using these blunt tip syringes that I bought on the internet. They're reusable. They have a little plunger. See how fun that is? This can be a little difficult to control, especially if you have arthritic hands. Like me, you'll notice my hands are strangely swollen. That's what happens when you work with your hands too much in life. Look at that. My advice: sit your ass at a desk. Work with your hands on your own projects. Unless, of course, you don't want to listen. In which case, do whatever you want to do. That's the way. So, I think what I'm going to do to make this easier on myself is to add 2 milliliters of this ink. And to check that, I'm just going to look at the graduation. I'm about halfway there. And I'm there. And this is why it's important to have multiple of these blunt nose syringes, because you don't want to contaminate your whatever it's called, actual ink bottles, you want to preserve that. So these are cheap enough. I don't know what I paid for it, but I feel like this is going to have a dramatic effect, and I feel like maybe we should reposition the camera. So here we go. Ooh, nice and close, right? We're really getting into it today. Let's see what we can do here. Remember Dexter's Laboratory? So we're aiming for this 3 milliliter mark. And I'm not even close. Okay, that's 3. Ideally, I'd have a 4 milliliter batch. I say 4 milliliters is a good amount because when I take a pen like Mr. Mahjong P136 here and I stick it in, you need really about 4 milliliters to fully submerge the nib and feed enough to draw the ink through the piston filler. For my converter pens out there, and I do not have one handy, you can always take the converter out of the pen and dip it into a vial with less ink, such as what we have left of our Call of the Afternoon Cat Abomination mix. There's only about, roughly a milliliter left in this. It's been getting used. On the paper, that one looks a bit like a slightly darker Celadon cat. So let's do some shaking. I know there's better ways to do this. I don't care. It's just ink. Oh, well, that's looking pretty awesome. Let's start by taking a swab of this bluish violet. A swatch. Look at how vibrant that is. And let's see where we are with this now that I've just casually shaken it. Oh, slightly lighter. Actually, that's dramatically lighter. Looks like it has some somewhat better shading as well. Now, what to do with this? Do we... I think we want to darken this a hair. So, let's take some more of our darker ink here and maybe raise this up another milliliter. Well, we'll take it to there and see what happens. I don't want to wind up with a bajillion gallons of this just because I didn't take a more careful, measured approach. As you can see, ink is getting everywhere. We're making a mess. That means we are having fun. Let's get rid of this. And let's crack this bad boy open and see what we got. Ooh. It's too close to the original. Needs more of a mess. Add some of this green, yellow back in. Give that a mix. I'll try that. We are iterating now. My goodness, this means we're agile. And let's give this a minute to dry and see what it looks like. All right, it's been a minute. Let's take a closer look here. So this is the original. First iteration. Second iteration. This is also the second iteration. This is the third iteration. You can see it has got some better shading. But now I'm wondering, what can we do to make a bigger mess? How can I really mess this up? And I'm thinking, we could throw in some Kon-peki. This is a super vibrant blue. Or we can throw in some, I don't know, maybe some writer's blood. And that might have a fun effect on it. Now, remember, kids at home, I don't know what I'm talking about. I don't know anything about color theory. I'm just some guy on the internet who makes a mess with ink, who you should absolutely not consider to be a subject matter expert on anything. Let's add some of this red. I mean, writer's blood. We're going to add just a hair. Whatever that actually means. I think it means we're going to add just under half a milliliter. Oh, you see, this is what happens. These pistons on these things are not the easiest to use. So, anyway, there's a spurt in there. Shake that bad boy up. Shake that thing. Spin it up. Take a new Q-tip. There's probably nicer ways of doing this, but again, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just some guy on the internet. Too similar. So let's keep track of this a little bit better. Oops. This is original. This is iteration 1, iteration 2, iteration 2, iteration 3, iteration 4. And I'm not happy with that, so we're going to add a little more of this writer's blood. How much more? I don't know. I have no idea how much I just added in there now. The vial's covered in ink. We're making a mess. Shooting random amounts of ink into the vial at this point. Thank goodness I got graduated vials so I can completely ignore the graduation on it. Here we go. Iteration 5. I was really hoping for something a bit more electric. Let's take a closer look. It definitely is quite a difference between where we are now and where we were. Let's see if I can fold this in a way where you can get a real good look at the effect that red had, that writer's blood had on this. I don't want to say it's pinkish, but it's maybe more pinkish. Let's lighten it here with a little bit more of this neon yellow. I don't know how much that was. Should I do more? Let's do more. Great. I don't think the Kon-peki is going to get used today. Someday. Let's shake this up. And let's swab this iteration 6. It almost looks like candy, doesn't it? Let's take a look at that, actually. I think they might actually like this. Let's try to compare this to the original. I know my high-tech folding paper method is not wonderful, but I mean, this is total amateur hour. What were you expecting? Very different. And between, oh, come on, cameras. Iteration 5 and iteration 6. There's a definite difference there. Let's do 6 again. Let's re-swab that. Re-swab? Let's swab it again. It does look more vibrant if I'm not heavy-handed with it. See the shading? Let's get closer on this. I like how 5 turns out there's some loveliness here. You can see 6 when it's really heavily applied, and when it's not, and when it's super not. I still managed to retain generally the same color here, same level of shading, blah, 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 whatever. But I keep going back to the first iteration. This almost looks like neon, which stands to reason since it's 2-part bluish violet, 1 part neon yellow. What to do next? Let's lighten it a little more. and then call it a day. I'm just kidding. We're going to do 8 iterations. I think that's what it's going to take to get this to where I'm happy. Let's try to be a bit more controlled with this. He says while squirting the whole unmeasured amount into the vial and capping it and shaking it up. And let's Q-tip this. And where's my pen? We'll call this I7 as well because it's the same iteration. We'll give this a moment to dry and see how we like it. Although, I hate to say it, most of my concern is really on how it looks while it's wet, because I tend to use this for a very utilitarian purpose. You know, filling these garbage notebooks with notes and then throwing them in a file cabinet and never looking at them again. Very mature of me. Alright, let's come back when it's dry. Alright, we've gone off the rails a little bit. I made iteration 8 by adding 0.5 milliliter of the neon yellow. Wasn't happy. Moved on to iteration 9 with even more of the neon yellow. And what I've learned is neon yellow is your friend. Neon yellow. Neon. So, let's take a look at this shade that I made. It shows up darker on camera. Let's see if I can do this aperture, exposure, whatever. There we go. That looks a bit more like what I'm seeing in real life. There's a sheen on this that I'm really kind of loving. Let's get my trusty dip pen. Nope, that's not what I wanted to do. You see? Dipping. Electric. What would you even call this? Magenta? Pink? Magenta. And this is a Sailor. Insert your H word there. Hakoro. I always think Horcrux. No, I'm not a Harry Potter person. I just remembered that for some reason. I don't know why. Look at that. My goodness, it looks like something you'd want to eat. If there was a cookie covered in fondant that color and was placed in front of me, it would last 20 seconds. Who am I kidding? It wouldn't last that long. Look at that. I just love this. Is it the most practical color? No, it is not. Do I care? No. And why don't I care? Because I made a mess. I had a good time. Made a bunch of different shades by mixing a bunch of different inks. And ooh. It's a shame I'm not an art person, because if I was an art person, I could probably have a lot of fun with this. But I have the same artistic aptitude as a stone, and obviously none of the great impressionists were stones. All right, so what are we going to call this? We have to give it a ridiculous name and print a ridiculous label, otherwise the mission has failed. And since we said electric magenta, I'm just going to do that. Electric. Where's the space? Magenta. They say vision is the first thing to go. It's not. They're lying. It's actually your knees. You will miss your knees before you miss your vision. So says the stranger from the internet. Electric magenta. Just sounds like a bad 80s band, doesn't it? All right. So we have electric magenta to add to our collection of the grass is always racing greener over the Kon-peki with the typo on the label. Now I don't care enough to correct it. And what's left of the call of the afternoon cat. I still have 3 vials left, which means we're in for some additional adventure until I buy more vials or use up this other ink I've already mixed. That's it. That's all I've got to say. Stay in school, blah, blah, blah.